Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to my YouTube channel Diversity of Plants Zone. In this channel you can easily get the information related to plants and their diversity throughout the world. Before starting my video, I request to all the viewers to please subscribe to my YouTube channel and please like and share as well. Today's topic of my video is about two kingdom classification system. So let's start the video. First of all, I will discuss about the kingdom classification of living organisms. In biology, the kingdoms are the highest taxonomic groups of living organisms. Biologists, since the time of Aristotle, 384 to 322 before Christ, have divided the living world into two kingdoms, which are plants and animals. The word plant suggests grasses, bushes, shrubs, creepers, climbers, vines and trees. And animals suggests cats, dogs, lions, tigers, birds, frogs and fish. Further thought brings to mind such forms as ferns, mosses, mushrooms and pound, scrums, algae, quite different but recognizable as plants and insects, lobsters, clams, worms and snails that are definitely animals. But if you have ever had the pleasure of climbing over the rocky shore of the sea coast, looking at the organisms that cling to the rocks or live in a tide pool, you undoubtedly found some things that were difficult to recognize as animals and plants. The one-celled organisms visible under the microscope cannot easily be assigned to the plant or animal kingdom. The German biologist Ernst Haeckel, 1866, in his book Generelle Morphologie der Organismen, suggested a three-kingdom system which includes Protista, Plantae and Animalia. In the third kingdom, the Protista, he grouped all the single-celled organisms that are intermediate in many respects between plants and animals. Herbert Copeland, 1956, have suggested establishing a fourth kingdom, originally which is called Mycota, but later referred to as the Monera, to include the prokaryotes like bacteria and blue-green algae, which have many characteristics is common. They have a single membrane system without a nucleus and membrane-bounded subcellular organelles such as mitochondria or chloroplasts. All other organisms are eukaryotes, have a more complex structure with a nucleus and other organelles divided by intracellular membranes. R. H. Whitaker, 1969, recognized an additional kingdom for the fungi, and the resulting five-kingdom system suggested by him has received wide acceptance. However, this may not be the end of the story. Some scientists have proposed that organisms be divided into more, even maybe as many as 8 kingdoms. Currently, most biologists recognize 6 kingdoms, 2 prokaryotic kingdoms which are archaebacteria and bacteria, a large unicellular eukaryotic kingdom, Protista, and the 3 multicellular eukaryotic kingdoms which are fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Viruses are not included in any of the present 5 kingdoms, mainly due to their many non-living characteristics. For example, the viruses are not cells. So this is the summary of the equivalences in kingdom classification. I will discuss it one by one. So the first is Linnaeus, and the time period was 1735. Linnaeus introduced 2 kingdoms, which are Vegetalia and Animalia. Next is the Haeckel. The time period was 1866 and he introduced three kingdoms, which are Protista, Plantae and Animalia. Next is the Chatham. The time period was 1937 and the two empires, which are Prokaryota and Eukaryota. Next is the Copeland. The time period was 1956 and he introduced four kingdoms, which are Monera, Protoctista, Plantae and Animalia. Next is Whitaker. Time period was 1969. He introduced five kingdoms, which are Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So next is the Vos Atto. Time period was 1977 and he introduced six kingdoms, which are Eubacteria, Archaebacteria, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So next is Vos Atto. Time period was 1990 and he introduced three domains, which are Bacteria, Archaea and Eukarya. Note that the equivalences in this table are not perfect. For example, the Haeckel plays the red algae, the Haeckels, Floridii, modern, Floridophyceae, and blue-green algae, Haeckels, Archaephyta, modern Cyanobacteria in his Plantae. But in modern classifications, they are considered protists and bacteria respectively. However, despite this and other failures of the equivalence, the table gives a useful simplification. So in biology, kingdom, Latin, is called regnum and plural regna. It is the second highest taxonomic rank and just below domain. So the kingdoms are divided into smaller groups which are called phyla. Traditionally, some textbooks from the United States and Canada used a system of six kingdoms, which are Animalia, Plantae, Fungi, Protista, Archaea, Archaebacteria and Bacteria or Eubacteria, while the textbooks in Great Britain, India, Greece, Brazil and other countries use the five kingdoms only, and which are Animalia, Plantae, Fungi, Protista and Monera. Some recent classifications based on modern cladistics have explicitly abandoned the term kingdom, noting that the traditional kingdoms are not monophyletic, meaning that they do not consist of all the descendants of a common ancestor. So this is the hierarchy of biological classifications, 8 major taxonomic ranks. A domain contains one or more kingdoms and intermediate minor rankings are not shown. So the first is the life, next is domain, next is kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus and species. So the next I am going to discuss about the definition and associated terms. And when Carolus Linnaeus introduced the rank-based system of nomenclature into biology in 1735, the highest rank was given the name kingdom and was followed by four other or principal ranks, which are class, order, genus and species. And the later two further main ranks were introduced, making the sequence kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus and species. In 1990, the rank of domain was introduced above kingdom and prefixes can be added. So subkingdom or subregnum and infrakingdom, also known as infraregnum, are the two ranks immediately below the kingdom. Superkingdom may be considered as an equivalent of domain or empire, or as an independent rank between kingdom and domain or subdomain. In some classification systems, the additional rank branch in Latin, which is called remus, can be inserted between subkingdom and infrakingdom. And the example is protostomia and deuterostomia in the classification of the Cavalier, Smith. So next is the most important question which is frequently asked. And this question is, what is the two kingdom classification? The two kingdom classification was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus, and he categorized and classified the living organisms on the basis of their nutrition and their mobility. The living organisms were classified into the kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. This is further discussion about the two kingdom system. Organisms are vastly diversified in their characters. All living organisms differ in their stature, form, life cycle and metabolism, and these numerous organisms are classified into different groups for easy identification and understanding. The father of the classification is Carolus Linnaeus. He was the pioneer of modern biological nomenclature. He classified the organisms into two kingdoms, and the two kingdom classification was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus in the year 1758. He classified all living things into two kingdoms. They are animal kingdom and plant kingdom. He named for animal kingdom as regnum animale and plant kingdom as regnum vegetable. And this two kingdom classification had laid the base for the modern classification. In his classification, he has distinguished clearly animals from plants. The plants synthesize their own food and it is fixed in the soil, and there is no movement in the plants. On the other hand, the animals are depending on other plants and animals for their food. Animals are freely movable, and these are the basic and important differences between the plants and animals. Next, I am going to discuss about the kingdom Plantae, and the plant kingdom includes green plants, mosses, ferns, many colorless and color, unicellular organisms, molds, fungi, lichens, bacteria, and multicellular seaweeds. This classification was proposed by the Linnaeus. Following are the few distinguishing characters of plants. So the plants vary greatly in their form and their size. Their body is usually asymmetrical. In higher forms of plant structures like leaves, and the plants have a definite shape and form. Plants do not have capability to move, and they are fixed with root in the soil, but few localized movements may occur in the plants, and there is a continuous growth in their lifespan. In plants, the nutrition is autotrophic or saprophytic, so the minerals are absorbed in solution state by the help of roots, because roots will not absorb the particulate matter. The plant's body is having a distant cell wall, and the plant cells have a vacuole filled with the sap and plasters of different kinds. Centrioles and lysosomes are absent in plant cell, and the reserve food material in plants are the starch form. So this is the plant kingdom classification. The plant kingdom is classified as follow. This is the kingdom Plantae, which is divided into the two sub-kingdoms. First sub-kingdom is cryptogamy, and the next is the phanerogamy. Cryptogamy is further divided into three divisions, which are Thallophyta, Bryophyta, and the example is the Funaria. Pteridophyta, example is the Pteris. On the other hand, phanerogamy is divided into Spermatophyta. So when we talk about the Thallophyta is further divided into two subdivisions, and the first subdivision is algae. Example is the Spirogera, and fungi, and the example is Rhizopus. When we talk about Spermatophyta, it is divided into the two subdivisions. First is Gymnospermy, and example is Cycas. Next is the Angiospermy, and example is pea or paddy, etc. Next, I am going to discuss about the kingdom Animalia. Kingdom Animalia including multicellular organisms and unicellular protozoans. And these organisms have no chlorophyll and photosynthetic capability. This was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus, and this is including protozoans, sponges, jellyfish, worms, carps, insects, spiders, and frogs. Snails, sharks, bony fishes, lizards, birds, and mammals. The distinguishing characters of animals are as follow. The animals show a definite shape, form, and symmetry. Animals are capable of moving from one place to another place. The growth of the animal occurs proportionately in all body parts. They respond to stimulus. Animal body is made up of cells but without the cell wall. Plastids and vacuoles are absent. Centrosomes and lysosomes are present. Some necessary amino acids, vitamins, and coenzymes. Some necessary amino acids cannot be synthesized by animals and they must be taken from outside. In plants, the reserve food is in the form of the glycogen. So this is the classification of kingdom Animalia. So this is the kingdom Animalia. This kingdom is divided into subkingdoms. First subkingdom is the protozoa. Example is the phylum Protozoa, and the next is the Eumetazoa. And when we talk about Eumetazoa, it is further divided into infrakingdom. First is the Mesozoa, and the example is the phylum. Example is the phylum Porifera. And next is the Parazoa. Parazoa, and then comes Enterozoa. So Enterozoa is divided into grades, into two grades, and the first grade is the Radiata, and the example is the phylum Cnidaria, and the next example is the Ctenophora, and the other grade is the Bilateria or Bilateria. Bilateria is further divided into two divisions, and the first division is Protostomia and the second division is the Deuterostomia. So the Protostomia is further divided into three subdivisions, and the first subdivision is the Acylomata. Acylomata, and it is also called the Acoelomata. And the example is the phylum Platyhelminthes. On the other hand, the second subdivision is the Pseudocylomata or Pseudocoelomata, and the example is the phylum Nemathelminthes. And the third is the Cixocoelomata, and the example is the phylum Annelida. Next example is Arthropoda, and the third example is the Mollusca. So when we talk about the Deuterostomia, Deuterostomia is divided into the subdivision which is called Antrocylomata, which is called Antrocylomata. So there are two examples of Antrocylomata, which includes the phylums Echinodermata and Chordata. Next, I am going to discuss about the demerits of the two kingdom classification, and this system is not suitable as due to a large diversity of among the organisms. And the main demerits are as follow. Euglena possesses characters of both plants and animals, and they are not classified in a particular group. The differences between the Plantae, both photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms, are placed together. So the lichens are not included either plant kingdom and nor in animal kingdom. Diatoms are placed in the plant kingdom, but protozoans are placed under the animal kingdom. Euglena and Chlamydomonas having a characters of both animals and plants, and so they can belong to any kingdom. Nutrition modes in two kingdom classification system are ingestion and assimilation. So the absorption type of nutrition was not recognized at that time. Next, I am going to discuss about the drawbacks of the two kingdom classification. In the two kingdom classification, following are the drawbacks. The first is the plants comprised of photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic species. Fungi that feed on dead organic matter were placed under photosynthetic plants. There was another class of classification needed where the organisms with the same characteristics were clubbed into one kingdom, and this system didn't distinguish between eukaryotes and prokaryotes, unicellular and multicellular organisms, and photosynthetic green algae and non-photosynthetic fungi organisms. There are some organisms which neither fall into plant nor animal kingdom, like lichens. This is further discussion about the two kingdom classification. In his Systema Naturae, first published in the 1735, Carolus Linnaeus distinguished two kingdoms of living things: Animalia for animals and Plantae or Vegetabilia for plants. He classified all the living organisms into two kingdoms on the basis of their nutrition and locomotion or mobility. Linnaeus placed unicellular protozoans and multicellular animals, metazoans, under animal kingdom because of their compact body, holozoic nutrition, ingestion of food, and locomotion. All other organisms were grouped under plant kingdom because of their immobility, spread out appearance, and autotrophic mode of nutrition. Thus, the traditional plant kingdom comprised bacteria, algae, plants, and fungi. So, this is the two kingdom plant and animals of living organisms. In this figure, we can see that the plants are divided into the kingdoms like algae, bacteria, fungi, bryophyta, pteridophyta, and spermatophyta. On the other hand, animals include porifera, platyhelminthes, mollusca, annelida, arthropoda, nemathelminthes, chordata, and echinodermata. And the last is the coelenterata, as shown in the figure. Next, I am going to discuss about the further limitations of the two kingdom classification. The two kingdom system of classification didn't indicate any evolutionary relationship between plants and animals. It grouped together the prokaryotes, bacteria, and blue-green algae with other eukaryotes. It also grouped unicellular and multicellular organisms together. This system didn't distinguish the heterotrophic fungi and the autotrophic green plants. Dual organisms like the euglena and lichens didn't fall into either kingdom. Slime mold, a type of fungi, can neither be grouped in fungi nor plants. This is because they are wall-less and holozoic in vegetative stage, but develop cell wall in the reproductive stage. It didn't mention some acellular organisms like viruses and viroids. Now the most important question is, why is the two kingdom classification system is inadequate? We can easily distinguish a living animal from a living plant in our surroundings. We do not find any difficulty in identifying an animal as long as we see it moving, eating, and alive. When it comes to plants, we have an image of a structure having spread out appearance with the green parts like the leaves in our mind. So to keep it as simple as it was, Carolus Linnaeus classified all the organisms of the world into two kingdoms, which are Plantae and Animalia. About the two kingdom classification system. Our 3-century-old friend Carolus Linnaeus was a Swedish naturalist who introduced the system of classification. In his book Systema Naturae, first published in 1735, he classified all organisms into two kingdoms, For example, Animalia for animals and Plantae for plants. His classification system was based on two features. First is nutrition and locomotion or movement. The animal kingdom includes all the moving multicellular organisms, animals, and unicellular organisms called protozoa, first animal. All other organisms such as green plants, mosses, and multicellular seaweeds, molds, and mushrooms, lichens, and minute colored or colorless unicellular organisms and bacteria were lumped together in the plant kingdom. About two kingdom classification system are portrait on oil on the canvas of Carolus Linnaeus as shown in the figure. Now I will further discuss about the limitations of the Linnaeus classification system. Whether it is a worm, insect, snail, fish, bird or mammal, we can easily identify it as an animal as long as it moves or eats. Moreover, when we are shown a patch of green moss on a wet rock or a green filamentous tangle from a nearby pond, we are readily convinced that these are more plant-like than animal-like. So now the question is, but where shall we place the colorless fungi growing out of a rotten wood, log or a decomposing heap of straw? So these organisms live by decomposing and absorbing waste organic matter rather than preparing their own food like the green plants. But given the only options to choose, for example, either from plants or animals, we may still call them plants because they are fixed and have a spread out appearance. So limitations of Linnaeus classification system, these are the fungi as shown in the figure. So now the question is, what about lichens growing on a bare rock or on a bark of tree? So it is very hard to believe that they are even alive, but due to their inability to move and spread out their appearance may once again lead us to call them plants. If you are not satisfied yet want to explore more in our surroundings, then you can examine a drop of water from a nearby pond, lake, ditch or sea. Under a microscope, you are likely to find numerous living things, some moving vigorously and some slowly and others hardly at all. Some of them may be green or yellow and some may be brown or red. Some may be even colorless. So where you will place them, among animals or plants? Following the system of classification introduced by our friend Linnaeus, all organisms were placed in either one of the two large kingdoms, Plantae or Animalia. Limitations of Linnaeus classification system, these are the lichens as shown in the figure. Need for a new system of classification, but the grouping of such diverse organisms into only two kingdoms was not satisfactory to many biologists of that time. They argued that this system puts together eukaryotes, the organisms with a true nucleus, and prokaryotes are the organisms without a true nucleus. It also lumps together non-photosynthetic fungi with photosynthetic green plants. Thus, there was a need for a better system of classification. So, this is a simple comparison between the animals and plants. I will discuss it one by one. First, I will discuss animal and then I will discuss plant. So, animal, the absence of a true or well organized nucleus. Plant, presence of true membrane bounded nucleus and genetic material always remain associated with the histone protein. Animal, the food product is the glycogen. Plant, food product is starch. Animal, it has fast movement. Plant, it has slow movement. Animal, it shows a fast response. Plant, it shows slow response. Animal, they are heterotrophic because they cannot prepare their own food. Plants, they are autotrophic because they can easily prepare their own food because of the presence of chlorophyll in them. If you like my video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the bell icon as well for further notifications. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for your time and appreciation. I hope you will like this video as well. Thanks a lot.